Inside Outlook is proudly supported by the Evans School of Public Affairs at the University of Washington, leading the field in public policy and management education, research and service for more than 50 years.
We are on the corner of First and Pike in downtown Seattle. These white boxes above me are part of the Seattle Police Department's wireless mesh network and have the capacity to track the devices in our very pockets. They're part of a project funded by the Department of Homeland Security and said to be in place for our public safety and for cases of emergency. Their installation has only added fuel to the firestorm of debate originally triggered by Edward Snowden's NSA leaks more than a year ago. A debate weighing collective security versus civil liberties, our privacy versus our security. Today on Inside Outlook, we dive into these issues with our esteemed panel. I'm your host, Gavin Sullivan. Stay tuned. It's been over a year since Edward Snowden carried out what is arguably one of the largest leaks of classified U.S. government information in history. The public debate has been transformed by what has been revealed. What has been the impact on different sectors within society, whether it's government and the judicial process, whether it's within academia and the research circles?
Well, obviously the breach of privacy that's been revealed by his revelations has been alarming to many people. I didn't find it very surprising. I think many people know that the NSA has been doing this stuff for a long time. But it has shined a white-hot spotlight on the debate, and that's good. I don't think it's really changed practice much. I don't think that it's really reined in the NSA. I think the NSA is going to continue to do what it needs to do.
I would agree that there's no surprise here for those of us that are in the field, cybersecurity. We knew that monitoring was going on all the time. What surprises me personally is that the average consumer didn't realize what was going on, especially when they make use of social media like Google and Facebook and Twitter. What were they thinking? Right. These services are free, and if you don't pay for them, then the data you provide to them is obvious payment. I mean, you are the payment for participating in these social media activities. So whether you're looking at government collecting data or you're looking at private industry collecting data, it's the same intrusion in privacy.
And I've said one thing that I think the discussion is missing, and I understand why, but one thing that I think the discussion is missing is the people that do this, they're not doing it because they're malicious. There is a purpose behind this. Mm-hmm. Now the purpose obviously is for increased security, increased protection, thwarting terrorist attacks. One thing that unfortunately we don't have a good sense of is how many attacks have actually been prevented by this.
Right. Benjamin Franklin famously said that those who would exchange liberty for security deserve neither. Mm-hmm. Benjamin Franklin did not live in a world of suicide bombers. Right. In those days they marched around with banners and red jackets and things. So I think we do have to make an adjustment to reality today, and I'm willing to do that, even as someone who really resents the intrusion of government into our lives. We have to make that adjustment. Privacy isn't a binary thing. It's at a continuum.
So I think this is an important conversation to have at a global scale. In any context, whenever we collect data, this becomes like a hammer, and we can use a hammer, this tool, to do good, to improve our lives, to have better services, or we can use it to destroy. And I think it's important that we do get the benefits of collecting all this data.
And this is where I'm starting to see a little bit of an issue. Is what channels do we have to create change?
I want to go back to something that was stated earlier about the FISA courts and the challenge that we have getting good checks and balances. The NSA is filled with mathematicians and computer scientists that understand what's going on under the hood and how information can be compromised, listened to, privacy invaded. They understand the technology. But our court systems, in my opinion, don't.
You know, being on the private sector side and the technology side, that is a perennial problem, is technology outstrips the
Right.
courts and the legal system by at least 10 years, more like 15 years. You know, I think the courts have figured out that you shouldn't do bad things on AOL. When we talk about data, data is gathered and stored. Data becomes, you know, it's a static repository. Our capabilities around that data, however, is not static. What we can do with data, you know, what we can do with data changes daily. You know, and so I think an important part of the conversation that we're talking about is not only does it have to be kind of forward-looking in that regard, but we have to constantly reevaluate what we've already discussed.
Wow.
And I think this is a really good point. And at the University of Washington, we actually have seen this transformation that now all the fields, all the departments around campus are becoming increasingly data-driven. Everyone is working with data. So because everyone is working with data, we need to educate everyone on campus around the tools of analyzing data, visualizing it, processing it, and so on.
But also the norms and the ethics that now go along with this, correct? I mean, isn't this a part of it when we're teaching future generations how to deal with these tools?
Right.
What's missing?
One of the challenges with students grasping being online and taking responsibility for what they do, in my observation, is the anonymity that the internet has provided for so long, that people who would ordinarily be well behaved take license. And there's been studies done of this, that dissociative effect. And so your sense of responsibility for what you're doing is diminished.
We look at everything that's been revealed at the NSA over the last year. What can we identify as being a harm to U.S. citizens?
Well, the chief thing is that leads to what I have lovingly called at some point the oh crap moment.
The oh crap moment.
The oh crap
like
moment, as in the oh crap, I didn't realize that there would be this consequence. You get the fearlessness and the lack of awareness of consequences.
Good point.
You know, at that age, combined with the thing that we'll never forget. I mean, you know, think of all the stupid things that you did in the 15 to 26-year-old bracket, and imagine it being videoed and YouTube. Would you want to live with that 20 years later?
No, I would not.
And this issue comes up in my world all the time when
Right.
people come to see me and they want to expunge their criminal record, right? They want to vacate their record because they want to have the ability to go get a job or something. Well, when I started practicing in 1977, and you wanted to look up somebody's background, you had to go down to the courthouse and look at records. Well, those days obviously are long gone. And even though the law provides an opportunity for you to vacate your record and clean it, and gives you the legal right to say nothing ever happened.
But I think what I would like is that, I mean, this is all scary, but I think at least for the next generation who is listening to us, I think it's important for them to realize that we shouldn't be thinking of us as being a hostage of the internet and hostage of this environment. We have the ability to build new systems, to develop new methods, to develop new anonymization techniques, to build the next world where we want to be. So I think I would like also for people to think about where do we want to be, and then how do we get there?
We're here in Seattle, Washington, the neighborhood of Capitol Hill. We're a boutique security hardware and application firm that does penetration testing, mostly for the Fortune 500 technology organizations. As basically connectivity grows, as more devices go online, as more things go on, like say your car, your thermostat, your watch, there's more and more data that can be collected from that. There's demonstrable gains, but the flip side of that is, what then can be used with that data from a malicious intent. How, if somebody knows you're in your car and you're about to have a heart attack, that's very useful data to many people. So what we're doing is we're generating one test after another and sending it to this device, and basically hoping that we can cause it to crash or cause an effect that will allow us to take control of it.
Interesting. And take over In what way?
So basically, once we have control of the device, we can do anything that it normally would. In this case, it's a router that would be used, for instance, in an enterprise network or perhaps in a small business network.
And now your guys' job is to basically do the same type of activity.
Yes.
But with obviously a different intent in mind.
Absolutely.
Are you finding that those with malicious intent are growing? Is this a problem?
That's not something I can necessarily comment on.
The term white hat hacker, what does that mean exactly, and where does that come from?
Surprisingly or entertainingly, it comes from 50s Western hat culture. the Western movies in the 50s, the white hat cowboy would ride in and always be the hero, and the guy wearing the black hat would walk in and be the, you knew that was the bad guy by the fact that he was wearing a black colored hat.
The flag. What's the inspiration behind the flag?
Just a little bit of pirate culture of being out on the high seas of the internet and finding bugs and having a very good time.
Good. And most of your colleagues here share that same outlook?
A little bit, yeah.
Good. When does it start to impact adversely innovation and research when we start to get really held up on the security and the privacy aspect of it?
I'm worried about the fact that companies that have no awareness of security and privacy are quickly building things that connect to the internet. Nike. How much cybersecurity expert does Nike have? Probably not much. And yet they build a Fitbit or something that gathers all this personal data. And oh, by the way, it's internet accessible. With each wave, the information becomes less logical, more physical, and closer to us as people.
Pacemakers, right?
So you can't really stop that wave. That's going to happen, right? Progress is going to happen. I want to go back to a point that was made earlier about the gap between the technology knowledge and expertise that the courts have and the actual technology. They have none, right? We know that. And lawyers are, in fact, proud of their ignorance.
But you're different. I mean,
well, I'm different. Yeah, I'm a contrarian in many ways. But the FISA court, the idea that the FISA court could act as an oversight platform for this is absurd. It doesn't work that way. The FISA court is monitored by, the Supreme Court. They don't make their decisions, for the most part, I believe, based on the technology issues or anything that esoteric. They make their decisions based on their ideologies. That's what I believe, and that's what we see in reality. And so we can't really count on the court to monitor this independently. It has to come from awareness.
And I get the social contract that comes with, okay, yeah, I'm getting these wonderful tools from Google, my Gmail, everything else, and in exchange, I'm willingly giving over my information. Okay, that's the social contract, if you will, between the
aren't we
developer and
complicit
ourselves.
Because we're demanding these services?
That's a good
And we're
point.
saying we don't give a darn about the unintended consequences?
Right.
So we participate in this.
Willingly.
We create the demand.
We create the demand.
I mean, at the end of the day, from the standpoint of human history, what we're talking about isn't new.
Right.
Insofar as we're talking about tools.
Right.
Every tool that humankind has created, from the first flint axe to to Facebook, I always say it's value neutral.
If we think about all the software engineers at Microsoft, Google, all those great companies building systems, what we think is primarily we want to deliver this great feature to the people, and most people are good people, hence they think about the good uses of all these tools, and they want to build these tools, they want to make them better. And it used to be the case that actually security was more of an afterthought. What we are seeing today, thanks to our work of our colleagues in security and privacy, thanks to general social awareness and lawyers, is that people are increasingly trying to think about security from the beginning of the project.
And I remember growing up, my mother telling me the 6 people in my neighborhood to avoid. And the guy who's at the top of the list, I still remember his name. Now we're going online, it's an asymmetric problem, and we've got tens of millions of people we have to be worried about.
We need not just people to think about security in a positive way, we need people who are slightly devious, who will look at things, for the express purpose of understanding how can I subvert this, what can I accomplish that the designers didn't think of, what can I get away with, and what can I do to you?
And that's a particular twist of mind
It
that
is.
not everybody has.
It is.
And it's the ability to look at things systemically, which is not what our society trains. I mean, typically I think of us as a linear, engineering society, cause and effect. This kind of thinking helps integrate everything and asks you to look at how things are interconnected and how you can break apart elements.
And where the cracks are and where the weaknesses are, because that's what you're going to exploit.
I get the sense that we're all in agreement that there has been an overstep, right? I mean, there's been a mistrust from the government and what it's been able to do. Are we in consensus with that?
What do you mean by overstep? I mean, we've had to respond to a problem.
At the very least, I was surprised that they were, the amount of surveillance that's been going on.
You were surprised.
But we aren't.
I would say that things have been done without an ongoing discussion.
We're not self-governing anymore, right? It's really, as he said, they are doing it and they're not asking us. So something's gone really awry in the whole political system that has alienated all of us from this decision making that would affect our ability to control this.
And I don't know how much of this can be attributed to some grand scheme or conspiracy.
No, it's incremental.
I think it's incremental. I think it's been the way things are, technology outpacing us, our appetite for technology. It's an overall blindness to what we've done to ourselves. And so the general public needs to be aware, they need to be engaged.
The recent poll revealed that 25% of the general public say they don't care whether the government reads each word of their email. Something that the NSA has not, there hasn't been any evidence that that's what's actually happening, it's just the metadata. But 25%. And so, is it safe to assume that the American general public just doesn't care about this issue?
There's the saying, never presume malice where simple incompetence will suffice. One of the reasons for what I call data overgathering is the simple fact that it's easy. It's a lot easier for me to write a program that says, on your iPhone contacts, let's just suck up all the data, rather than figure out, okay, I need the name. From a time to market point of view, it's just faster. And people do that because ultimately their customers don't push back on them.
But they hide it from us too, right? They make it so obscure. They make you sign these you check and agree to all of these terms that nobody ever reads. They obscure it for a reason.
But at the end of the day, they have to take.
At will.
Right.
Yeah, but still, at the end of the day, people have to take personal responsibility.
I agree with that.
And say, what is this? I'm not using this. I won't use your service until you put this in English that my mother can understand.
Right.
There is evil in the world, though, right? We know we would agree on that.
That's right.
There is evil, and they will use it because it is easy.
Right. And my biggest worry is that people get distracted by these abstract, nearly meaningless from a day-to-day life point of view threats, and they miss what's right in front of them. Because because I'm more worried about criminals. I'm more worried about crazy people than I am about the NSA. I'm more worried about the Russians.
Right.
Not that I think they're going to send a hit squad.
But I think this discussion actually emphasizes that we really need to invest as society in education. And I think you had the right point. We need to educate our kids from the beginning, from elementary school. We want them to have a very strong education in technology, very strong education in computer science, education in ethics, education in privacy security, because if they are well educated, if they know how the systems work, if they can build the systems themselves, I think we as a society will greatly benefit, no matter what fields, what professions our kids choose to do.
The right to be forgotten. I mean, what the EU is able to do, is that even possible?
That train left the station a long time ago, I think. I don't think it's possible.
Well, and I was going to say, I've been thinking about this lately, and there's a way in which I actually am coming around to the opinion that that's a really bad thing. And here's why. I think it's a bad thing because I think it gives a false sense of security. Because that can engender a sense of, hey, I can post anything, and then if I don't like it, I'll use my right to be forgotten to suck it down, and no harm, no foul. Yep, the right to be forgotten will not apply to the giant archives that the Russian FSB will make, that the NSA
Offshore.
will make.
Well, there's no such thing as global governance, right? So you're not going to be able to do it on a global scale, which means that the bad guys are always going to have an opportunity somewhere. So I don't see any hope for policy-based change, legislative-based change. None of that's going to stop it.
So we willingly just
no,
give.
We fight it.
We are on a boat headed towards, I think, a world that is increasingly wonderful, right? With all this data, we have new kinds of medicine, more personalized medicine. Scientists can discover new, can have new discoveries at a much faster pace. The world is much easier. We have, the GPSs to navigate in our cities. We have sensors that tell us about traffic. We can go online, connect with friends from high school. This is wonderful. I would never want to go back. But I think at the same time, this is a new world where the rules are changing and there are new ways to do harm. And we, the good people, and there's a lot of good people in the world, just need to figure out how do we navigate in it? How do we build the next generation systems? What kind of laws do we put in place to make this increasingly safe and just a great world to be in, where we do have all the benefits and we protect ourselves at the same time.
There may be some imbalance on this group because Magda is talking about the very positive things of technology, which I truly think do outweigh some of the negatives. But you're looking at the people here on the cleanup committee, and we spend all day long looking at the bad stuff, and it's daunting and growing and new and wonderful ways to compromise things. It doesn't end because the motivations are tremendous. You're talking about huge money being made in criminal enterprises. You're talking about aggregated power like you can't imagine. And it's so tempting. It is so tempting.
I am optimistic too, because I believe that we are mostly fundamentally good. But there is evil out there, and the technology that is making the world more wonderful is also creating the scenario for the destruction of the entire world.
And it's an asymmetric problem, because it just takes one person to lever big change, and that's something that's really new.
As far as asymmetric and disasters, certainly when Facebook is down, people respond like it's a
That's true, like it's a disaster, right?
Well, I want to thank you guys very much for sharing your thoughts and your opinions on this important, vital subject.
Inside Outlook is made possible by support from the Evans School of Public Affairs at the University of Washington.